protagonist. And so we can start looking at what it takes to draw a figure like Donald, who appears deceptively simple, but as we can see, I have already prepared a couple of things that we need to consider when constructing, when drawing something that is supposed to adhere to a certain style. Donald Duck is very recognizable, perhaps the most recognizable fictional figure ever. Statistically, he should be. And there's a specific way that you're supposed to draw him. Of course, you can take a few liberties, but if you go too far off, it won't look like Donald anymore. So here it is, the proportions again. Of course, Donald is shorter than a human, so instead of 8 heads tall, he's 4 heads tall. The proportions are different. The legs are short. You know, like in humans, the legs will go all the way down to here. That's the difference, right? Different shapes, how the eyes are drawn. You know, you gotta practice that if you want to do a convincing drawing, right? And people have made blueprints that you can use. His shoulders slope from the neck, you know, yoop, yoop, and you gotta practice these lines, soft lines, to make it look like Donald. My favorite Disney artist, incidentally, is Don Rosa. Don Rosa is awesome. He made a lot of Scrooge McDuck and Donald Duck cartoons back in the day. I think he still does. And he's actually going to be at this comics convention in Vienna in October. And I plan to have my drawing finished by then, and hopefully he'll sign it for me. That would be super sweet. Super sweet. Um, so yeah, this is Donald. You know, different heads, different emotions. You know, you need to familiarize yourself with how. If I want to draw Donald, I need to know what Donald looks like when he's happy, when he's sad, when he's angry, when he's confused, when he's surprised, etc. Right? Because he exists. We need to break it down, right, to the simplest shapes that we can draw with, as we learned in the first few episodes. Here's the circle, right? Of course, Donald is a duck, so his nose isn't so far up, but he's got a beak, so it's further down. You see how it's drawn from the front. The basic shape is filled in, and if we have a frontal picture and a side picture, we can construct the drawing from any perspective with a bit of practice. Here it just shows you what you should do to draw him and stuff. I mean, obviously you don't need to draw it in this order. There is no law for it, but yeah, here's Donald just like in poses, right? But because this is gonna be a more epic drawing, a Star Wars drawing, I thought that normal Donald wouldn't suffice, so I think I would like to go with his superhero alter ego, Super Duck, or Phantomias in German, Phantomias. So you know you got to start drawing Donald. This was the first try. This was my second try. This was my third try. First hotkey, Control, and the plus key zooms in. Simples. Let's keep holding Control. I'm not going to use the middle finger to flip you guys off. If you keep holding Control, and then we scroll with the mouse button, it moves left and right. If we hold Alt and scroll, we zoom in and out. This is important. Control and Alt are very, very important controls in Photoshop and in general. What else? Photoshop is divided into layers. Often, here as you can see, I have over 40. And if I want to select a specific one, I need to click and press at the same time. If I want to select Super Duck here, I hold Control and click, and now his layer is selected, layer 35, and now I can move. Oh, that's just the color. That was that color, right? This is why in Photoshop you need to merge the layers together, and then you can start moving them. But I need to do that properly. Merge layers is Control E, by the way. But let's bring up. Oh, it is here. The history. But yeah. So, anyways, so this was the third attempt of me drawing Donald. Already much more recognizable with the hat and stuff, but still really way too sketchy. This was the fourth attempt. It's already with the Super Duck mask, already looking a lot better. This is the first attempt at coloring it, at cleaning it up. And this was just like a sketch of the full figure for the first time. And like I would kind of stylize him a little bit when it comes to the end product. And I thought that the Super Nintendo game Donald Duck in Maui Mallard was awesome. It had the coolest Disney style ever, and like I kind of want to model it a little bit after that from the motion and the fluidity. So yeah, so I practiced drawing Donald with, line art and painting. The colors I always put onto a new layer, i.e. a separate layer from the line art, right? Layer 24 here is the line art, and layer 25 is the paint. Let's move them close together. As you can see, as I clicked, I held Control to select the specific layer that I wanted. Okay, now these are separated, as you can see. But if I would want to print it, let's go back in time. If I would want to print it, oh wait, now I'm selecting the wrong layers. Go away, my mallard. There, here. Now, okay, now the color and the line art is in the correct place, but they're in separate places. If I'd want to move them both together, there's different ways I can do that. Either you select both layers, hold Shift to select layers, and you press link layers, and then they wrong layers, and then they move together, right? Then they move together and they're locked together. But if I would want to copy the line art and the drawing into my clipboard now, that wouldn't work. If I press Control A to select everything, right? You can see the marching ants around the whole canvas, and then Control C to copy, as you know, and then Control V to paste. It'll paste it right on top of it. No, it'll paste it over here. But there is no color, as you can see, even though those two layers were linked. So what that means, we need to merge them later for print. Or if you just want to move it as one, you would merge these layers, Control and E, merge, now they're one. Now I can move it. But of course, as you merge layers, you need to consider that you lose control, right? Because when I have the history thing is so awesome, you can go far back, and I need to go far back often because I make a lot of mistakes. If you're just editing the paint or the color, you want it on a separate layer, or they're linked. Still, unlink them. Both selected. So yeah, so you can manipulate them individually. I think that's an important skill to have, is to separate your layers properly. That's yeah, that's important. So let's go on. So Donald Duck is our protagonist, but of course there's a whole other side to it, the dark side. It's the dark side of the duck. So we need to draw a full-on scene, right? We can't just draw a single character and expect to do well in a contest with it. We need to put him in a setting, have him do an action corresponding to the theme, and it needs to be epic, right? It needs to be epic. So how do we begin? As you can see, this is already a different file, and have deactivated all the layers on it, right? So I'm going to activate them one by one, so you see what I do, how many layers I use to get to this stage, and this is just the first draft, right? So here we go, right? So we got some. Where's my mood board, by the way? Sorry. Need to find. Which, and values. Dark side. 3 maybe. I'll need that later. But anyways, there was more. I saved like some Darth Vader pictures and stuff for reference, and of the throne room of the Death Star, and that kind of stuff. So what do we need? Let's zoom out. We need a background and a foreground, and we need a middle layer. Also, we need some basic compositioning. I put in some of the guidelines that we talked about in the first, I think in the second episode. We talked about the golden ratio and the rule of thirds. So I put those in already because I don't really want to center stuff too much. I want the main action to be a little bit away from the center in the golden ratio where my eye is drawn to. So that's what the lines are for. Here's already a hint of something in the background. So let's keep going. Interesting shapes, geometric shapes, circles. keeping it simple. This is a picture of reference of the throne room in the Death Star to get the symmetry right. Beginnings of a planet in the background. The planet is taken from Google Images, but I need to paint over it. Just need to put a right one so I can imagine it in the beginning. Yeah, here, this is like scribbling over where the line is supposed to be, right? Then, basic characters, basic silhouettes of the figures, where are they going to be? The way these two figures are posed, I chose it specifically because this is like a new poster for one of the new the new Star Wars movies, and this is going to be an iconic image. Kylo Ren on the left with his weird claymore lightsaber, and I don't know, maybe Luke Skywalker's children will be fighting. But yeah, like so I wanted to choose those specific poses because people will be able to recognize them as a Star Wars imagery. And I want Donald to be in the middle over here facing us, whereas Darth Vader will be looking at him with his back turned to the camera somewhat. Let's continue. Fill in some space where the windows are. Some more. Pretend that they're stars. Yucky. Ooh, make it darker. Paint a planet. Interesting. Let's make a sphere with green and blue and brown. Begin to add some separate values because there is, of course, a window panel in metal in front of the planet. How's the sound, guys? By the way, how am I doing? And we continue building it up from the back forward. That's how I like to begin. These are just put as CinemaScope lines so I don't lose oversight because I wanted to have a frame. Here I draw in the very, very basic positions and shapes of the two main figures in the drawing. We continue. Make it dark, see where the action line goes. This is a perpendicular, like this is a triangle, right? A 45-degree triangle to get some things going. We've got some circles happening. Ooh, body, head, shoulder, second shoulder. Shoulders. Now this is the torso. This is the left shoulder. That's the elbow. That's the hand. That's the head. Those are the legs. This is their range of movement and base color theme. Orange versus red. Just draw in a silhouette for the body. Begin to anyways. Hints of a background perhaps. Is that a figure sitting on something? What could it be? Dear God. Yuri says it's good. Thanks, bro. And yes, as you see, ooh, here, there's already something happened. Almost tell what it is. More detail. Ooh, black cloak. Separating the background more, adding more details. Ooh, here we made a big step. Actually painting Super Duck in. I actually opted to go for Super Duck and not Donald dressed as a Jedi. I don't know why, but I just kind of like it more like this. What do you guys think? Yeah, just here, work on the cape a bit, separate it a little bit from the background so the colors don't mush too much. Very important. Ooh, lightsaber positions. Follows this line, follows this line. It's a cross. Frame. Just fix the hand a little bit. Ooh, stars, highlights. What the hell? What's going? Ooh, and the midground. The middle comes. Making sure that we're able to see that this is a window pane, that there's stuff between space and us. Ooh, some detail. I like to draw these faux kind of 3D wireprints, so I know where the shapes are at and whatnot. Here, add to the silhouette of the cape, make it stand out more, separate it, bring it into the foreground, give the painting layers, levels, foreground, midground, background, important. Here, play with it a bit, make it brighter, make it darker, so forth. And yeah, that's like, this is the basic composition of the painting, right? This is a super early draft, but you can kind of already tell what direction it'll go. I continued. Let's see what happened. What? Let's go all the way back there. Huh? So that's where we left. Put in a bit of a color gradient. Start fleshing it out. This all adds texture underneath. You know, when they analyze like the paintings of old masters, they often X-ray them because you can kind of see these layers also when you X-ray into painting, which is fascinating, I think. Maybe they'll find a video. Oop. Bit more work done on the shadowy figure in the background. Interesting. What's this? Ooh. Add a bit of a metal texture to the background. Ah. Bit of detail shadow in the background. Bit more color. Ooh. Red glowing eyes. Watching a duel. Working on that planet a bit. Working on it some more. Working on the midground some more. And on these. The floor. This part of the floor is so weird. I mean, like, Donald is casting a shadow forward. Right? That's the crux. Here, more work done on the cape. Begin adding some values to that, to the uniform. Whoa. Add more darkness. The dark side is taking over Vader. Here, make it all a little bit more plasticky. That's going over layer over layer. Go over the lightsaber again. Of course, the lightsaber, the easiest way to draw it is you just draw red and then white in the middle to make it seem hot. White is the hottest. It's hotter than red. Here, more work done on the cape, a little bit more. A bit more work done on the face. Let's zoom in a bit so you can see how high the resolution is, in fact. It's very high. And oh, it's got like a little weary in his face. Yeah, so you see, kind of solidifying it a little bit. Wow, brightening it up again. Darkening it again. Where was I? Ah, text. See what it looks like with a wide frame. And yeah. Then, of course, the next step was this, a value map. Very, very important. It looks like not much, but when we go back, we realize that this is one of the most important things. We need to really push the different values apart. The highlights, the midtones, and the shadows. Very, very, very important. So your piece looks plastic, right? So it looks tangible here. Shadows, Vader's cape, and on the helmet in the background. In front of the throne there is a shadow as well. Let's push it more, separate them a bit more. Gray background here. There was more, but yeah, it's probably over here somewhere. Give me just a second, guys. Dark side of the dark 4. It's already a bit more derpy. This is where we left it. Yeah, add a bit more stuff in the sky. You know, work on those stars a bit, blur it again, add some nebula. It's still quite far away, but it's already a lot better. Ah, scratch discs are full. Let's close that. Mirror things open. Dark side 5. Now I'm sure you'll manage. Yes. Here we already made it quite a bit further. The painting has become wider, right? Do you see? So, how did we do that? Made the canvas wider. Important, Alt Control C is the canvas size. For example, if I change the height, add at the bottom and the top, and it will add it in the color that my background color is set. My background color is currently set to black. If I press X, I can switch the two colors I have selected around. But let's go back. Canvas size is very different than image size. Alt Control I. This is image size, and here, if I say, let's make it 2000 pixels wide, it will just scale it rather than add physical size to the canvas. There, it's become smaller, but the proportions of the canvas remain the same. Image size and canvas size. Very, very important. Very, very important. Lots of things are very important, I suppose. Some work done on the shadows. Cleaning up those sides a bit. As we've cropped here, you can kind of see the lines. Still, this needs to be fixed. Rough still. But we always have to start rough somewhere. Whoa! Some more values on the lightsaber. Some more values in the background. Blurring the edges. Bringing it a bit closer together. Pretend that there are some wall panels here. Not loving how that's like a line. Control and delete is fill, right? So if I have black set as my background color and I press Control and delete, it fills it. Fill. Now that weird line is gone. Kind of. Let's fill that too. And yes, now this picture is already a lot wider, as you can tell. What time have we? 30 past. Just gonna have a glass of water. Been rambling for half an hour already. Have you guys got any questions? Yo. Let me just check the various chats. Looks good. How are we looking on YouTube? Looking good. Yeah, pita. So yeah. So this now, what you see, this is the second draft. We're still far away from being finished, but there's a lot more already added to the picture. Let's go back so you can see the difference. This was the first draft. This was us just creating a scene, placing the characters, putting down some basic colors, and playing a bit with the composition and the light and stuff. Where are the main focus points? And this is how far we've taken it already. The figures are more refined, the lighting is better, there's more texture, more layers, you know, the picture has become larger, there is a discernible kind of background, it's still all too muddy and too blurry, but it's already looking like something, and it's already looking pretty cool, I hope, I think. How long did this take me? So far, I have invested 6 hours roughly, maybe 4.5, maybe 5.5, something like that of actual work into this digital painting. The first bits, right, like making the draft and fleshing it out a bit, that's actually done pretty quickly. Like this is maybe now 35 or 40% done, if, right? And compared to Donnie is like 20% done, maybe. But it's already further, as you can tell, you know, like hopefully by the 10th episode of The Witching Hour, we'll actually have produced a finished painting to enjoy. Leo is just enjoying the show. Everyone's having fun. I'm really happy to hear that, guys. Truly, truly. I'm super self-conscious about this. I gotta tell you, like, I'm always nervous when I do this. I think I know a lot about art and design and have a lot of practice. And I even teach this shit, but every time that I try and sit down and talk about it. I feel a little silly, like talking out into the nether, but I'm really happy that you guys enjoy this nonsense. Me drawing, painting. So yeah, how would we continue, right? Just keep adding layers. I would probably keep working on the main character next. Like you can kind of tell how he's standing, but it's still a bit iffy. Like this leg should probably be a bit further up and a bit longer, and this foot isn't placed properly, and you can't see the outlines, and it needs to be cleaned up, a bit separated. You could even give him a very slight glow to separate him from the background a bit more. Same goes for Vader, you need to make sure that there are some easily recognizable shapes, especially on the helmet. It's so important. Like this Darth Vader helmet is such an iconic thing, and if we get that wrong, it'll look shit. Excuse my French. Don't be doing it. Aw, thanks, nerd. That's very sweet of you. Very sweet. Uh-huh. Where's my water? So yeah, for me, like this kind of stage, when I've built the scene, when I've placed everything, and I'm more or less happy with the ways the guys are standing and the overall feel of it, this is where I enjoy it, and this is where you start adding detail, layer after layer of more stars, textures on the planets, paint in some clouds, draw in like the corona of the atmosphere, like a slight glow, make sure that the figure is completely discernible, that each step can be seen, that you can see the proper outlines of the throne that he's sitting on. You need to suggest shape, simple shapes that people recognize. We need to make sure that the background looks more like metal and that you can tell that it's separated, that the floor, I mean, it's not going to be pink at the end. It's gonna be more like a metal color at the end, I suppose. This is just the way it's turned out at this stage, and then you just begin adding more textures, star textures, planet textures, metal textures, and but the longest part is actually cleaning up the figures and getting the figures of the line right. And the way you progress is you start with big brushes and you work your way down, right? Further and further down, so it becomes smaller and smaller. So you just basically have a very thin line tool to draw with at the end in your very top layers. And at the very end, when you're finishing a painting, you should only be drawing with perfect black and perfect white to 100% opacity on each to get that finished look on the lines. As you can tell, at the moment they're not perfect black, they're actually like a dark red kind of color. You can see here. Derp. Yeah, you need to clean it. You need to make it look like it's been meticulously inked by a Disney master. Did you know that most of the Donald Duck stories are actually written in Italy? Who would have thunk? Paperino, he's called in Italian. Papernick is Super Duck. But yeah, as you can see, this is all very blurry still. Oops, that's not good. And we would just work until let's take a perfect circle here and make it like small as we're probably gonna get, which is actually like 2 pixels probably. 1 pixel with paint brushes are too jaggedly, I have found. I don't know why I can't see this shit now. Is there a selection? Let's make a new one. Wow. Yeah, interesting. But yeah, so what other little tools and tricks can I teach you? There's of course, the select tool is V. Um, A is the mouse pointer, the cursor. T is text. La di da di da di da. K K K K K. Photoshop isn't terrific for if you're if you're not practiced with it. It's not terrific for text editing because if you scaled up and down photos and images in Photoshop, you often lose resolution, and text is meant to stay at very specific resolution, so it should usually be added last, especially when you're working in bitmap file formats. What's a bitmap? A bitmap is a pixel-based image like this one here. You can see all the individual pixels, and each individual pixel has a color value, right? We can check the color value that each pixel has with the color picker tool. Click, and then it gets selected here. It's like a very dark purple, and this is the hex code, which you can also use in website editing and stuff. So you always get the same um, color tone again, which is sweet. Then of course there's more color libraries. This is a bit more advanced print knowledge and color knowledge. The Pantone colors for printing. You need to know the numbers. Various printing processes require different color profiles. Um, Nowadays it's really not that complicated, and people will usually stick to one or two of these formats. But and Pantone is it's it's a very popular format for real life colors. So be aware of that. We're using hex colors, zooming in and out. Yeah, maybe I actually kind of like that it's not perfect black. I kind of like that it's these color gradients, red, beige, black. The hat still looks way too shit. But as you can see, I just used circular brushes to add shapes on top of each other, right? That's how it works. This how it works. And yeah, you know, you would need to paint on it until you're happy with it. Um, the point where a drawing or painting is finished is not set in stone. It's up to you. There is such a thing as overworking a drawing and underworking it, of course, as well. Uh, I find that like with drawing and stuff, you can often really tell when someone put a lot of time in it and when they don't. Like you can always recognize if it only took 5 minutes or not. I mean, the skill is if you produce simple looking graphic design, that's actually very difficult. To make a simple design, you need to understand complex shapes very well and be able to break them down into the simplest recognizable silhouettes and shapes. That's what graphic design um, and especially corporate identity is all about. Recognizability, right? How much can we boil down a shape or design until we always recognize it as ours? Bam. This is an entire industry. And it's bullshit. I mean, no, but yeah, you know what I mean. I'm not going to comment on the politics in the stream. Anyways, um, so yeah, Donald, right? There's still a couple of things wrong with his pose, the way his weight is shifted, and I think the length of his legs and the foreshortening is not quite correct. I like in drawings, you know, there's always parts that you like more and that you like less than others. I really like how the lightsaber turned out. I think that's pretty cool for now. I also like the highlights on the helmet so far, here on the eyes, on the top and there, and the crease. At the moment, I'm very unhappy with the way the capes are looking. I mean, Vader's cape is better, but this needs to be more swooshy. It's not really going in any particular direction. This could be better. Um, the sky needs to be a lot more detailed and separated, like here, because this is like a metal strut, you know. By the time that we're done, it needs to be 100% separated from the back. So we have a very clear border, right? Like now if we zoom out a bit, subconscious, like consciously, that's already a much better distinction, this bit versus this bit, and it's just two straight lines, um, pinning it in place, basically. So yeah, we need to make sure that the symmetry uh, is properly done, that the symmetry of the window works, that it works with the perspective of the protagonist. I need to fix the floor. His shadow pointing forward isn't quite correct. There's still random white bits here that shouldn't be there, like Vader's figure, his fist and stuff. He's got like a clenched fist. Can't really tell right now. This all needs to be better, more clearly defined. Um, yeah, just keep adding layers, keep adding detail. It's gonna be a wild ride. I'm gonna keep working on this painting, especially tomorrow in the evening, late afternoonish. I'll be working on it because it needs to be done by September 11th. So yeah, cool, right? Hope you like it. Haha. Where was I? Where was I? Let's quickly functionality of Photoshop CC in particular. Some more tips and tricks of the trade in Photoshop. Some more hotkeys. To make it all a bit simpler, let's make a new image with just one layer. Aha. This is something extremely important that I almost missed. Control plus N makes a new file. Escape. Control Shift N makes a new layer. Right? New layer. But what we want is a new file. So Control N, name it blah blah, whatever, right? And paste in what we copied. Control V, as per usual for pasting. And now we can play a bit with it. I'll show you guys some controls for Photoshop. Control T is transform. That means I can make it smaller, bigger, rotate, red, skew, whatever I want. Escape, go back. Control T, transform. Let's make it a bit smaller. Next, if I hold first V for the select tool, then Control click to make sure that we've got the right layer selected. And now if we press Alt and hold it, click on our layer and drag, wow, we have successfully duplicated it. There's even a new layer. Yes. Control T. Again, if you hold Alt while moving aside, it'll change it proportionally in both directions. When I don't hold Alt, it just goes in one direction. Again, Control T. If I hold Shift, the aspect stays the same while changing the size, as in it's not getting taller or fatter or anything like that. It's just getting smaller and larger. Important because if you don't hold Shift, it's like manual, and you're probably gonna lose the original aspect ratio of your drawing if you do it like that. Escape, go back.